What's going on, everybody? Welcome back on into the Space Cowboy Show. I'm your host, Ricardo, and it's finally time we caught up on things going on in Cowboy Land. I know I've been absent for a little bit, primarily due to the fact that we had a snowstorm hit us here in New Jersey, so that kind of threw things out of whack for me, so that's okay. I'm here again, and we're going to be catching up on some topics of conversation, such as the contract negotiations between Brandon Aubrey and the Cowboys and George Pickens getting franchise tagged, Jerry Jones stating that the Cowboys are going to spend more in free agency, and who did the Cowboys meet at the draft combine? We're going to get through all that in today's video. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit the notification bell. Helps out the channel out a lot in the YouTube algorithm, and it's greatly appreciated. Next, the show is powered by Creshman Media, so please be sure to go check out the other shows on the Creshman Media Network. And finally, shout out to the channel members that are keeping this show powered on, and more importantly, trying to continue my pursuit and making this a full-time gig for myself. So I greatly appreciate you guys so much for your love and support. Now, starting things off with the Brandon Aubrey situation, because that has been a huge topic of conversation amongst Cowboys fans. We have been hearing reports that the Cowboys and Brandon Aubrey's representation are not agreeing on numbers. Now, this isn't a situation to where he is a unrestricted free agent where he can hit the open market, so there's a bit more of urgency. He's a restricted free agent still. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with the process, where Brandon Aubrey is at in his career, he has to be designated as either a second round or first round tender. Basically, it's a particular contract amount where other teams can provide offers to sign Brandon Aubrey where the Cowboys would have an opportunity to match. But if the Cowboys elect not to sign Brandon Aubrey to whatever offer is given, the team that is signing Aubrey would need to provide the Cowboys with a draft pick with whatever round they tendered him as, which in this case is most likely going to be a second round tender. Now, as for me, as to what I think the Dallas Cowboys need to do, I'm very pro player. I'm very big on players getting their bag and making sure that they're able to get what's due to them, especially with the services that they provide. I'm very big on that. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that there is a cycle that happens here in Dallas when it comes to players that are looking to get their next contract, especially star players. The cycle is like this. You get a new player that's very good at their particular position, and players and also fans and the media will hype them up, right? Then after some time, they're up for a contract extension. And you want to know what happens? You see Dallas media start trying to put out certain stories here and there, trying to make it seem that, the player's asking for too much money, or they'll start talking about some of the negative parts of their game. Then you have fans start to eat up that particular stuff that's coming through the media, and then they start spouting the same things. Next thing you know, it gives the Dallas Cowboys more of a parachute to where if they don't re-sign the player, then fans are like, well, they were asking for too much money, or, well, they weren't as good as we thought they were. Now, I'm not saying Brandon Aubrey is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I do understand the concerns of giving him such a massive contract if he's looking for $10 million plus. That's more than what you're paying Javonte Williams, right? And what's crazy about this is I think it's, again, a negotiation tactic. The highest paid kicker in the NFL is being paid $7.5 million. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys were like, hey, we think that you're the best kicker in the NFL. We're not going to give you $10 million, but we can give you $7.5 million. We can give you $8 million. And it could also be the guarantees involved with the contract. That's another thing too, guys, that is involved in these negotiation processes. So for me, do I think the Cowboys should pay Brandon Aubrey? I personally think they should. Because if you guys remember when Dan Bailey had left, you went through a whole bunch of kickers. You had Brett Maher, then you had Kai Forbath, then you had Greg Zerline, then you had Brett Maher again. And you were just going through this rotation of kickers that weren't good. And then you finally landed on Brandon Aubrey, who has been a weapon for you. You literally just have to get to the logo, and this man can hit it. And there are people that are trying to be like, oh, well, he's missed a couple kicks. He's not perfect. No kicker is perfect. Dan Bailey in his prime wasn't perfect whatsoever. But the thing is I do understand the point of view of you shouldn't be relying on field goals to win you games. I get that. But the thing is that not everything is going to be perfect, right? The way I look at it is Brandon Aubrey is approaching 30 years old. And the other thing about that too is when we talk about how kickers have aged and more specifically, with leg power and things like that, can that last into his late 30s and things like that? And I think it can. When we look at where he's at, I think that the Cowboys should just settle on a number that's $7.5 to $8 million and call it a day. Again, it's not my money that's being played with, and from a roster construction perspective, this is one of the reasons why you traded away Micah Parsons, right? This is why you got off of a guy like Trevon Diggs. You're trying to open up more cap space to put the money around other positions on your team. George Pickens, right? You're going to have to pay him most likely, right? You also got to look at a guy like Brandon Aubrey. That's where the money's going to go. We're big on giving our guys that we want to be here money. But if you are squeamish on giving a guy money because he's asking for a certain amount, then you need to work that out. And again, I do believe that the Cowboys will re-sign Brandon Aubrey to a record-setting deal. Do I think it's going to be north of $10 million? No, I think it's going to be around like $8.5 million, and they'll call it a day. And by the way, that's not going to be the cap hit that the Cowboys will be hit with year over year. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a front-loaded contract, and by the time you're 2 years into it, if something happens, you can get out of it. That's just how it is. At the end of the day, I do think that the Cowboys need to pay Brandon Aubrey. I'm not going through another kicker search. It's not easy to go off the street and find a kicker, as we've seen here with the Cowboys specifically. I'm not talking about other teams where they've been able to kind of go through kickers, find new ones and things like that. But again, the Dallas Cowboys have to do their due diligence and really think about what they want to do here. Now, the final part is if another team offered a contract to Brandon Aubrey, which would net the Cowboys a second-round pick, would you take that? Now, for me, the Cowboys haven't had a whole lot of luck with their second-round selection. So I'm not really big into the idea of acquiring a second-round selection for a guy that is very, very damn good for you, especially with special teams, which has been a unit the Cowboys have struggled with year over year. But again, I'm not trying to sit here and say that everything's perfect for Brandon Aubrey, but at the same time, the Cowboys need to really understand the situation they're in, especially with where their roster's at. Now, moving over to the George Pickens situation and what's going on over there, the Dallas Cowboys are moving a lot quicker than I'm used to where they placed the franchise tag on George Pickens, so now he's set to make at minimum $27.8 million this year, assuming he doesn't sign a contract extension. But what made things more interesting was the fact that the Dallas Cowboys designated the tag for George Pickens as a non-exclusive tag. For those that are unaware of what that means that a team can offer George Pickens a contract, and if they were to sign him, the Cowboys would be owed 2 first-round selections from that team. Now, to start things off, should the Cowboys pay George Pickens? I've been very vocal on this. You should pay him. The Cowboys are in a position to where they finally found a viable number 2 wide receiver option aside from CeeDee Lamb, where you can feel comfortable now and not have to worry about, oh no, we need to go after another receiver and hope that we hit on him, right? And I think that's the part that bugs me so much, is that every time we have a talented player walk through the door, the minute they want to get paid, no one wants them on the team anymore. And again, do the Cowboys look to trade this player to try and get more draft capital, place that talent? Do they spend in free agency to where they can use the money in other positions to where you can negate a loss like that? No, they haven't shown the propensity to do that. So I'm more inclined to be like, yo, you should look to pay him. Now, this is where things get interesting. If the Cowboys were in a position where someone offered George Pickens a contract to where with that non-exclusive tag, you can get 2 first-round picks for a guy like George Pickens, yeah, I would have no problem being in a position where, yes, you can go ahead and sign him. We'll get those 2 first-round picks, and we'll go get some more players. I have no problem with that because of the type of value you would be getting. The fact that you would take a 3rd-round pick, talented player in George Pickens, and you flipping him for 2 first-round picks, especially for a skill position like that, would be insane. But I don't think any other team is going to try and offer him a contract. We don't know what exactly his team is looking for, but the floor is set. It's going to be around $30 million. Again, that doesn't mean that's going to be the cap hit you're going to have, but the main thing that I'm very curious about is how quickly the Cowboys try to ink a deal with George Pickens, because again, the market's just going to keep getting more and more expensive. Because with a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba coming up for a contract extension, which he will earn every single penny of that contract extension, if you saw what he was doing over in Seattle, this is going to impact the market for George Pickens, where you can be looking at a difference between a $30 million a year deal to a $35 to $38 million a year deal. And so I know there's plenty of Cowboys fans that are very big on not sure if George Pickens is a guy that I can deal with this long term. Okay, that's fine. And if the Cowboys feel the same way, then this is what you need to do. What you need to do, go ahead and franchise tag him. If you want to try and work out a long-term deal, that's great. And if you don't come to terms with that when July 15th rolls around, all right, cool. But what the Cowboys need to make sure that they don't do is they don't get caught with cold feet and they don't do anything. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to do nothing. I think that they're going to look at the situation they're in and say, all right, George, you know what? We want to give you a long-term extension, but we need to see you do it again. Kind of like how we saw with DeMarcus Lawrence. Hey, you came up and you were doing fantastic work in the defense, being the war daddy. Remember that phrase from Jerry Jones? Yeah, we want to see that again before we pay you. And I think that could be what the Cowboys are looking to do as well. But again, the Cowboys need to be proactive. If you are not looking to give this guy a long-term contract extension, then what you need to do is you need to do every part of your power to ensure that, number one, you have a plan in place, and number two, that if you do pay him, that you're willing to understand the situation you're in and build the roster accordingly. Again, we are not in a full-on rebuild to where we can just trade and liquidate all our assets for more draft capital to try and rebuild this team. The Cowboys are very much so in a position where they're trying to win a championship. Whether you think they will or not, that's a whole nother thing. It's just more so from the front office perspective and where your roster's at. But that's the position you put yourself in, and now you kind of have the lie in your bed. Now moving on to Jerry Jones talking about how the Cowboys are going to spend more in free agency. I don't buy this until I actually see it with my own two eyes. And when you say you're going to spend money in free agency, you don't have to go out and buy every single player that's out on the open market. That's not what we're looking to do here. All I need to see is that they're willing to go out and spend the money to go get starter quality free agents or quality backups. We have seen the Cowboys, when they go out into free agency, they get guys that are camp bodies or just guys that aren't good, whether it be through trade with day 3 selections or signing guys straight up. And the other thing too, from a roster construction perspective, there's no roster stability because you constantly sign guys to 1-year deals and you really aren't able to build chemistry or just, again, roster cohesion. Now, again, I'm not saying that the Cowboys need to sign every single person to a multi-year deal. That's not what I'm trying to say here. All I'm saying is that the Cowboys need to do a better job of acquiring more talent in free agency, so that way when we go to the draft, we can sit here and be like, yo, we can trade down. Or, hey, you know what? We can take this player because we're good at this particular position. Now we're hearing reports that the Cowboys are interested in particular players because of Christian Parker on the defensive side of the ball with his relationship with the Philadelphia Eagles, that some players might come over here to Dallas to play with him. I don't know the certainty of that, but the one thing I will say is that the only way to go is up. The Cowboys defense is in desperate need of an overhaul, and if you're able to open up the paycheck to go and get those guys, that's great. And I think that that is exactly what the Cowboys need to do. There is no way in hell that the Dallas Cowboys are going to sit here and go into 2026 doing the same behaviors. In fact, I've said it before that the Cowboys are putting themselves in a position where they have to spend money. And if they don't spend money, it's not going to be good for 2026, that's for sure. Now, I'm not going to make a video talking about which players the Cowboys need to go after or guys that you need to keep an eye out on because, again, the Cowboys have been so inactive in free agency. They first need to show me that they can go after certain guys in free agency that are of a certain quality. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste your time talking about how, oh, they're interested in this player and that player. Okay, well, prove it to me. You know, we want to see, do they actually do their end of the bargain and sign players? But again, don't sign players for the sake of signing players. You need to go out and sign quality players to really help this roster out. Now, finally, talking about who the Cowboys met at the Combine. When you look at the list, no offensive players that I saw on the lists that I went through. A lot of edge rushers, linebackers, and cornerbacks, especially guys that we've talked about on the channel through the mock drafts and also in other channels as well. But I think for me, it is very clear that the Dallas Cowboys want to improve this defense. And I think that with where we're at right now, that is where the Cowboys are looking to do. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if the first two picks were an edge or a linebacker, a cornerback or a linebacker. It really looks like that is the direction the Cowboys are going to go in. But again, don't take particular players because of the position they have. Take them because they're good players, right? And I think that that is where we're at. Is it's very clear that the Cowboys understand that their offense is more or less set. You re-sign Javonte Williams. You are going to retain George Pickens for 2026. Now you just need to revamp this defense just enough to where it can be a productive unit for you. And maybe, just maybe, this team can be good, very good, in 2026. But with that being said, guys, I don't have much more to say. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I will see you guys at some point later in the week. And let's see what happens, man. Free agency's here. We're about to enter March. I cannot believe we're, a fourth through 2026 already. It's just insane, man. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.